happy birthday to you.
Thank you, my sweetness. But listen, I was looking at Sidney like, Daddy, who they singing to? Because my birthday is Wednesday.
Yeah, but I won't be with you, so happy pre-birthday.
Thank you, my baby. Thank you for that early birthday, Sister Val.
I love Mon'nique so much. She's so pretty, so gifted, so talented. I am going to share the rest of that interview. It wasn't that long though, guys. But I'm going to share the rest of that interview towards the end of this video and some B-roll on another channel because for whatever reason, this channel does not support it when I talk about like sports, music, comedy, TV, pop culture, etc., etc. So I had to start a new channel. So if you like what I do and you want to support, please subscribe to the other channel because what doesn't do well over here, I'm going to extend it over there and also do a few things that are just part of my personality that I just want to share with you guys, okay? And also speaking of sharing, let me slow down. Speaking of sharing, thank you guys so much for all of your support. Thank you for the Cash Apps, the PayPal, the memberships, the comments, the likes, the prayers. Thank you guys so much for that. It lets me know that you like what I'm doing, and I hope and pray that very soon I can do this full time as opposed to having to do it after I get off I have 3 jobs now. But anyway, guys, let me get back to work so I can give you what you came here for.
Y'all what Shannon needs.
Let me
tell you what my baby needs. He need him an old fat gal who can bake good cakes, make some smothered turkey wings, who gonna rub his feet at the nighttime, okay, and gonna have a sip of his to make him feel better about himself when he come home at night. That's what Shannon needs. You don't need no 26-year-old girl. You don't need no 36-year-old girl. This is your auntie talking to you. Take your old, get you an old out there that can love you old.
Shannon, or Shay, you better listen to your elders because Mon'nique is an OG and she's happily married.
He's a good man, Savannah. A good man.
See, this is why I'm never going to get monetized because I play too much. Oh, okay. Anyway, guys, this is what I wanted to introduce. All right, so you see the screen and you also see the source. Shout out to them. Social media grapples with Shannon Sharpe, J. Crow, and R-Play. Well, I was never on the fence about this. I was very convinced regarding my position, and I was happy to see that quite a few people on TikTok were as well.
See, a lot of y'all missing the whole point with this Shannon Sharpe situation. Look, it's not really about if she's wrong, if she's trying to beat him out of some money or not, if he's guilty or not. I mean, I hate to see him in this situation, but that's not the point. The point is, why did he put himself in that position? See, we got to be smarter. See, a lot of people pointing the finger at her saying, she wrong, she did. Man, look. He shouldn't have never been in that situation anyway. I mean, come on. 19 years old, 56. What do you guys have in common besides? So, you just going to continue to spend all this money off with females who on Instagram and put yourself in a position to be caught up like that. It's a lot of brothers out here like that with a lot of money. I understand, you can get caught up. There's a lot of great looking females out here. But when you get older, you're supposed to mature through life lessons. Come on, man, let's be real. Y'all never had before. Y'all never had a woman with a nice body. You done did that before. And you cannot tell me you done reach 40 years old, 45, and you think it ain't no older women that's 40, 45 that still look good. They all over the place, bro. And they educated. They got something to bring to the table. And they looking for good men like you who can bring something to the table. But y'all falling into the trap. Y'all want stuff that's so easy. All you gotta do is just pick whatever you want. You're gonna find yourself 60 years old and by yourself with nobody who you built something with, somebody that really care about you. None of that.
I think white women are as great as any other women. But I'm not going to act like I'm not scared of them. I have a reason to be scared. You could be Kang the Conqueror, and they could take your rabbit down in 2 weekends.
And I agree, because they have a certain privilege. So, and so do men. Men have the right to choose and love and select whoever they want, right? But one thing I do know, I wish that people who look like me would definitely stay out of this, because this is not our fight. This is about preference and privilege.
A black woman, in regards to that Shannon Sharpe situation, this is not our fight. This is not our fight. I want y'all to go in there and start getting that grease ready. Get that oven warmed up, okay? I want y'all to throw some fried chicken in that grease or some fried catfish. Throw some cornbread, put some honey butter on it, collard greens. I want y'all to make y'all a nice meal, and I want y'all to sit down. Get you a nice cup of Kool-Aid or whatever your favorite drink, right? And I want y'all to sit back and just watch it all unfold. Because we all done heard the messages, okay? We done heard the messages. And I know we want to run and save Shannon Sharpe, run to his rescue. But let's just sit back when it comes to Shannon Sharpe and that Gabby situation, that whole scandal that's going down. Let's sit back for once and mind our business, okay? We're doing a lot better at minding our business, and I want us to keep minding our business, okay? This is not our fight. It's just not. And regardless what's the truth or the lie or whatever, listen, let's not have an opinion. The only opinion I have is she lined that man up like a barber, okay? Lined him up. That's the only opinion I have. And I'm going to sit back and I'm going to go start cooking.
Well, I have 1 or 2 opinions, and I'll share them with you here in just a second. But Shannon's a big boy. He can definitely take care of himself. And
Shannon Sharpe, I'm going to stand with you, my brother. Shannon Sharpe, I'm going to stand with you, my brother, on one condition. I'm getting text messages from all over the African universe telling me that Shannon Sharpe was accused of the unspeakable. Whoa. I'm getting text messages telling me that Shannon Sharpe was accused of the unspeakable. I'm going to stand with my Uncle Shannon Sharpe.
That's right.
I'm going to stand with Uncle Shay Shay on one condition. Uncle Shay Shay, no more snow.
yeah, y'all see the screen. I had to do that because, when you let Dr. Umar do his thing, your gas register does not ring. Do you get my drift? And also, I didn't add those sound bites, guys. But listen, thinking of other stuff that isn't so cool. I don't always agree with Shannon. And I told you guys, they talk a little reckless over there because I explained my story when they did it to me. So, yeah, I didn't think it was cool when he did it to this guy.
Shannon Sharpe was one of the harshest critics to Deshaun Watson, basically saying that he was a man that wouldn't learn, and blamed the fact that he got accusations on him on his ill behavior. Shannon Sharpe says about Deshaun Watson, he ain't sorry. He only apologizing due to fear of massive punishment from the NFL. That was Uncle Shay Shay criticizing Deshaun Watson when Deshaun Watson was being targeted by Tony Busby, who was gathering a bunch of women to say Deshaun Watson did SA. It's only until he himself is get targeted by Tony Busby that now, what is his rhetoric about that?
To my family, friends, supporters, and colleagues, I want to speak to you directly and from the heart. This is a shakedown. I'm going to be open.
Now it's a shakedown. What I tell you, when y'all dig a hole, make sure you dig two. The demeanor you had to Deshaun Watson about the same lawyer who sued him. You're talking about Jay-Z. That same lawyer sued him 24 times for 24 women. And you sat up there and said, Deshaun is only apologizing because he loved that NFL check. You didn't say, why is one lawyer? You didn't think about that. You didn't care.
So let me get this straight. You telling me Deshaun Watson asked to be traded from the Houston Texans, and after he asked to be traded, all these allegations popped up from different Jane Does. And who represented all these Jane Does? Tony Busby. It was rumored that Tony Busby and a few members of the Houston, Texas organization were friends, even neighbors at some point. A few months ago, a Jane Doe had these allegations towards Jay-Z. Guess who was the Jane Doe's representative? Tony Busby. That case got thrown out based on the inconsistencies and Tony Busby not vetting the victim properly. Now, I'm hearing that Jay-Z decided to fight back to the point where Tony Busby lawyers of his firm need lawyers. Now, it was announced that Shannon Sharpe had a deal that was worth $100 million. Now, all of a sudden, these allegations against Shannon Sharpe is spreading like wildfire. And guess who is the representative of that Jane Doe? Tony Busby. So while everybody talking crazy about Shannon Sharpe, y'all not watching the real play.
Okay, sir, I hear you, but Shannon Sharpe talks crazy about Shannon Sharpe. He likes to play at a high level, aka high stakes. Listen.
How about date your age, date your age. Well, I want to date my wage. Oh my God.
Wait. Did he just cross his legs? Maybe. Okay.
How about date your age, date your age. Well, I want to date my wage. I'm finna shut all this ish down tonight. I want to date my wage.
Stay right here.
Where y'all at? Hey, chat, where they at?
Hold on. Cause you know I keep it on me now.
Yeah.
I keep it on me. You want to date your what?
I want to date my wage. Not my age. I want to date my wage. So where are they? Because y'all always talking about date your age, date your age. I want to date my wage. So come on with it.
Well, you talking?
As a matter of fact, I'm taking applicants as we speak.
Well, you talking spicy tonight, boy.
You guys noticed Ocho Cinco pulled out that pen, but he didn't ask him no questions. He quickly put that pen back. They be covering for each other. I mean, they seriously do. They won't cover for me or you, but they cover for each other. I'm a mess too, because I was definitely looking for one of those. What movie was it that Shaq played a genie in? Wasn't it Kazam? I wanted that Shaq genie to be like, "Your wish is my command."
Chad told you a long time ago about sitting up there just spending unnecessary money on them women. You ain't listening. Nothing your nephew told you. You drunk off your own alcohol.
Allegedly.
That 19-year-old girl really wants you.
Speaking of the 19-year-old, new audio and text messages have surfaced. And at this point, what I would do would play the audio and show you some pictures, videos of her. But I don't think this channel would support that, so I'm going to put it on the other channel. So please make sure to meet me over there.
That lady told Shannon Sharpe, I want you to put a dog collar around my neck and
Valerie, focus us back, and we are digressing.
So, what is your secret, and what would you like our listeners to know about you as a couple?
To say what we want people to know about us as a couple, this is what I want people to know coming from a black woman to other women out there. That love is possible, and it's real. And we've been taught to almost be in a constant battle in our relationships. Because even when you said power couple, that makes us chuckle. Because that's not something that we say, oh, we've got to be a power couple. What we want to be to one another is a loving couple. For people to understand our history, well, we've been best friends since the 10th grade, since we were 14 years old. So we've been in each other's lives for so long that
longer than we have not being in one another's lives.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So when you say what do we want people to know about us as a couple, is friendship is real, love is real, honesty is real. You know, when we do our show, Mon'nique and Sidney's open relationship, and people got so confused about what that meant, and they made it what they wanted it to be. But when you actually listened to the show, you found out it was about two people saying, let's be open and honest with one another so that way we can truly live our best lives with one another.
Sidney, same question for you. What are your thoughts?
We just deal with one another because people are going to say what it is that they say. They have a right to say it. But when you keep looking into the eyes of the one that you're taking this journey with and not be focused in on individuals that, quite frankly, don't have a bearing in on your life, that's the best way you can keep your relationship connected, keep your mind sane. But if you're trying to vibe the pulse of every individual that's out there, everyone has a different opinion. Everyone's depiction or grasping of what transpired may be different. Some people may be coming from a cruel space regardless, and some people are just coming from an honest space, but they may have misinterpreted it. Some people understand it completely. But the most important thing is, do you understand what you're dealing with? And if so, they say the only way that you can lose track of what it is that you're doing is if you take your eyes off your goal. So you just got to keep your eyes on your goal, because that's the thing that's important to yourself and your family.
Where do you get your content for your show?
When I'm on stage, it's pretty much, I tell people, if you want to get to know Mon'nique, just come to a show, because it's pretty much my life. With Mon'nique and Sidney's open relationship, we normally get that content at 3 o'clock in the morning. If one of us wake up and the other one wake up, and we come sit in the closet and we just start talking.
Well, 5 minutes before the show, something hit you, and then we start having a conversation in reference to it. We might change direction from what it is that we were going to speak in reference to, but wherever the Spirit takes us.
My next question is more for the young people that participate in my focus group, because a lot of them are vying to get into the entertainment industry. So this question is sort of kind of a two-part question. One, do you think that the entertainment industry is for young people? Do you think that it exploits? And last but not least, do you guys have any advice for people who want to pursue entertainment as a career?
Well, I'll try to make it as plain as I can. When you say, do I think the industry exploits people, I think that we're in an industry that exploits whomever they can. May they be young, old, black, white. So we just can't put it off on young people in the industry. It's that type of industry that will exploit whomever. To say what I have as a performer, as the talent, there were things in the early part of my career that you were so excited you didn't look at that contract with a fine-tooth comb, because you were so excited. You were going to be able to live your dream and walk in your dream, but not understanding when you put your name on that dotted line, you didn't realize what you were signing away. And no one was around you to say, wait a minute, time out. So the biggest piece of advice I could have to anyone that's coming into this business, make sure your contracts are looked over by your attorney, not their attorney, but an attorney that you hire, an attorney that has your best interest, so that way you may not get exploited.
And if they tell you that you cannot allow your attorney to look at it and you need to sign it right now, you already know that's the litmus test for it being a bad deal.
All right, Judge. We got Mon'nique and Sidney in the house. Welcome, sir. How are you?
All right. How's everybody doing today? I've been listening in for the
Everybody is wonderful.
Wonderful.
Now, okay, let's throw out a topic. What do you think some of the major problems that we're looking at right now as a country and as a people, as black people? And do you see any solutions? Who wants to go first?
I think that one of the major problems we're looking at, for me, humbly, is fear. most of us live in fear. So a lot of the problems and a lot of the situations is simply because people are too afraid to come together and speak up and speak out. Is there a solution? I believe it is. However, you don't get to that solution when you have people so afraid to even talk about the problem. And I think now that's what we're seeing a lot in a place called Hollywood. We're seeing it a lot across the board just in the workforce in the United States of America. You have people too afraid to say, listen, this is not right. You have people too afraid to say, this is inequality, this is an injustice, this, I won't tolerate it. Because a lot of us are so worried about ourselves individually, we forgot it took a village. We forgot to build up the community. So I hope that answers your question.
In the same way that you just made mention of the individual who you mentored and you gave your respects to them, there's a level of appreciation for the individuals who have come before, who have come after us, that to piggyback on what Mon'nique was saying, that we begin to do things that are specific to our benefit, not realizing that the people who came before us, the giants, as they said, we sit on their proverbial shoulders, that they did things for the benefit of those who weren't here yet. And this is how we're able to have a conversation, and you're able to be a judge. Mon'nique is able to be Mon'nique. Valerie's able to be Valerie as a host, and I'm able to be a manager in an industry that, you know, they're not used to a black couple standing strong and speaking truth to power. So when we stop being fearful, and it's not without reason, because we've been conditioned to be afraid. But when we learn that the same way that we have been conditioned to be unafraid, we can reteach ourselves to be fearless.
Well, let's try this. Miss Mon'nique. First thing, yeah, there is fear.
No, baby, we can hear you.
Okay, I just said, you mentioned there's fear. There's a lot of that. But you know the solution to fear?
What's that?
Grow strong, become courageous, be brave. I'm going to say something. Hollywood is the biggest cesspool full of low-down, wrongdoing, backstabbing scum you have ever run into. Now, I'll say that. I'll probably get blackballed again. But it ain't all about money. So the people on whose shoulders we stand, yes, there are quite a few. I'm in my 70s, so I dedicated myself, and I got up where I was making big money in spite of it, probably because of it, to the principle that you got to do what you're supposed to be doing, not necessarily what you want to do what you ought to do. So one thing that has disturbed me, I want you to talk about, since we touched on the subject. We haven't had a political leader in the black community in the last 50 years. We've got a lot of rap stars, singers, former gang members who decided they were going to become political after the fact, but nobody who rose up to be a voice of the people and lead the people politically, socially, and culturally, and economically has had anything happen to them. Is that because the society is more tolerant, or we just haven't had any of those people? It's a question. Anybody want to go for that one?
I don't know the reason. However, I think one of the most important things that there are, you sound like a person, and, you know, I'm just hypothesizing, that you can't get a Juris Doctorate, become a judge, unless there's a level of drive that you had, because who was going to make sure that you studied in order to pass the bar? Because no one probably cared more than you. So before we get into following leaders, we must learn how to be the leader for ourselves as individuals. And then when we lead ourselves as individuals, the rest will kind of fall in place. And they use a term on social media that they refer to as followers, more so than individuals who are thinking like-mindedly. And the truth is, real leaders aren't oftentimes, unless you're a coach or in a position where you have to have a specific group of people follow your leadership, but on a day-in, day-out process, most people who have, in my humble opinion, who have a mature outlook on life and a reasonable outlook on life are looking to, if one takes the proverbial lead, they're looking for the leaders of their community to take part because they're like-minded together, and collectively there's a level of leadership that is had. And because many voices cannot be heard and distinguished at the same time, you may elect that one voice, but that one voice has no relevance unless the collective are with him and or her. And they don't have to be followers, they are just with them. So I think part of the problem in our community may be that we're looking for the leader on the outside to lead us when we should be looking for the leader within.
I think you have a point there. For the last 50 years, the media has been glorifying dysfunction as a black lifestyle. Pimps, drug dealers, gangsters, fiends, they have been glorified, not the person who's actually doing something. And I think you're right about the expectations of the people as to what a leader is and what they're looking for. 50 years ago, when I was in college, what we had was Stokely Carmichael, H. Rap Brown, Malcolm X. Martin Luther King was a little passé then because nobody was into civil rights. It was in the actualization of the rights that had been acquired. There was a war going on, and everybody was subject to the draft, and a lot of us got snatched over there and done in. Or more crazy, let's put it that way. We went through I'm Black and I'm Proud, and we understood that what we should be looking up to or guiding ourselves on or being, most importantly, inspired by were people who articulated what was in us. And what was in us was, it's time after 100 years since the Civil War to get what we are supposed to get is part of humanity, get what we had paid the equity to get, or established equity to get in terms of our participation in the country, and just deciding to, instead of being down on our knees while we were praying until they felt guilty about it, to say, hell no, I'm not turning the other cheek, strike me if you dare, and I'm going to try to take your hand away. Panther Party, black student unions, community resource groups, these kind of things came about. Nowadays, you can listen to it in the entertainments. Look at what's on television. What is it? Let's say the person is a gangster and the person is being idolized as a fictional character, is a cross between Barry Gordy and his controller, a guy named Norby Walters, who was a white gangster and got 15% off the top of Motown for years and years and years. We knew about that when it happened. I even ran into the man. He did a whole lot of contract with people and had people do that for him. He controlled the black entertainment industry for years and made a lot of money off of it. But you see, we got things that went downhill from our images that did not accommodate the realities, and we forgot one important factor.
what we have been, and I'm part of this, I can't deny it for being in there for 15 years, is we became what Caesar called part of the bread and circus syndrome. In other words, we were part of the entertainments that kept the populace entertained and distracted from what was really going on around and about them that was important. And what we find nowadays is we glorify, we get into, our leadership is concerned with people that deal with distracting us rather than getting us anywhere. It's a shame. But it is what it is, so maybe a rap artist can put in a few more lines in his rhymes that say something conscientious instead of something dysfunctional. Maybe somebody, when they have the podium or the forum, when somebody is looking at them as a celebrity, they can make a comment to go out there. You know, maybe we can do a bit more, and perhaps we can highlight those up-and-coming young people who have the right ideas, or at least they're going in the right direction, and protect them from some of these miscreant idiots that are trying to tear them down because they're not really after the people. They're not really for the people. They're after the people in terms of trying to get some self-aggrandizement as some kind of leader that they can turn into money, or push some alternative agenda that the people that were following them do not know about. So maybe if you've got the public ear, the public eye, we can go that extra step and start putting them back on track rather than going along with this is so fascinating and doing stuff that I used to associate midlife with tabloids. The stuff we put on the front page now used to be on the last column, last page, last section of a newspaper. It's called a gossip column. We don't care about how well somebody does a job. We deal with what he's doing, who he's sleeping with, what kind of situation has he got, what scandals in his background.
Come on now. That's right.
We talk about, as they got on our boy here, when he made the announcement, he offended somebody's sensibilities. But you can, you know, like, that's what Trump does. He says, you full of it. You ain't worth a dang. You. And everybody goes, oh my God, he made someone feel diminished. Well, they should be diminished. And we need more of that. And our black leadership has got to start doing that too, instead of having read, 48 Rules of Power, pick a fight with somebody their constituency does not like so they can get some attention off of it and just create chaos. If you're going to create chaos, at least have a purpose other than your own self-interest. Sometimes you need to create chaos. You need to rock the damn boat. But anyway, I pontificate. It's Monday. It's early. It's gray and dark and raining out where I am. So excuse me. That's the kind of mood I'm in. So,
well, you know, truer words were never spoken in the sense of sometimes you have to rock the boat, not for the purpose of just rocking the boat if nothing is wrong. I think that it's the equivalent of we have, in our community, have been trained to be afraid of the master. And when you have a situation where you have an actress named Mon'nique, and you have a situation where this woman was approached by representatives of Lionsgate, Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry, who said, specifically, Tyler Perry, I believe if you go and campaign for an Oscar award, you can win $3 to $5 million if you're nominated, $6 to $8 million if you win
for your next movie.
For your next movie. And Mon'nique says, well, I prefer to spend that time with my family than campaigning for an award, because to campaign for anything is typical of a politician who is trying to win the voters and get them to believe in something that they have yet not seen to be true. Whereas the performance that I've already rendered is already on film for the Academy Award to look at, review, and if they want to say I won, beautiful. If they want to say I did not win, that's beautiful too, but I elect to spend that time with my family, and this is all under the guise of getting her to promote a film for Lionsgate, to whom she had no deal with. Her deal was with Lee Daniels Entertainment. And when Lee Daniels Entertainment had Mon'nique from New York Times, Vanity Fair, Oprah Winfrey, when they sold the movie, her job was done. But there are many people in our community who said, Mon'nique, you stupid, because, and your husband is messing up your career because you're telling people no that have power over you. Not a contract with you, not you broke your verbal agreement, not you broke your contractual agreement, because they have power over you. We have a audio of Tyler Perry saying, I think out of the box. Whenever they ask me to do something, I play by their rules. And if you had played by their rules, I believe you would have gotten what I said you would have gotten, not if you would have lived by the letter of your contract. So what happens is when you have the icons, and listen to that word icon, because they can con you because you construe them to be icons. But when these icons are fearful and are working for the proverbial master, hence the Meritorious Manumissions Act of 1710, where the slave was freed if he complied with one of three things: if he saved the master's life, if he made an invention that would make the master rich, or if he would tell on his fellow slaves, they could get their freedom. So what we watch in real time is billionaire individuals who could be construed as slaves, still working for the master, trying to be free because he still has refused to do what he said he was going to do in private. And we've captured it on audio where he said, when I promote my next movie, that was 2016, I'm going to let the world know that, Mon'nique, you were right for taking the position that you took and I was wrong. And if you heard it, tell me where, because we've yet to hear it. And when you have those type of people, when you have an Oprah Winfrey who is going after a Russell Simmons, who went after Michael Jackson, a man who was acquitted of all charges by a jury of 12 white people, but you're going to bring up accounts about this individual, but what you won't do is say that Mon'nique was right for the position that she took. Oftentimes, it's not about the color of one's skin, but it's the consciousness of one's mind.
I got nominated for 3 Emmys, and it didn't do any damn good, all right? But if you want to find out who's going to win an Emmy and who's going to win an Oscar, with exceptions, you can, well, not with exceptions, invariably you can find out about it a week before the event. The people that are nominated may be just ordinary or very outstanding performers, but the one that's going to get the award is the one that does most for or cooperates in the behind-the-scenes politics of the Oscar Emmy board. I was on that board, and the farce of the damn thing is do you know how many people it takes to make a nomination? Just one. And there are 35,000 people eligible who are members of SAG-AFTRA who can make a nomination. It just takes one. And there are people that have actually won the Oscars or Emmys that got a total of 3 votes. So it's a fraud. It is a complete fraud. And it's a pat on the back for that particular agenda. Now, back to that agenda. There is a guy named Roger King. His daddy invented TV syndication and started King World. Roger King was a football player, pro football player, and came in laterally. He wasn't a Hollywood product. He's an all right guy. He told me he interviewed almost 350 women before he selected Oprah. He wanted a spokesman for female stay-at-home America. He picked her. He managed all of her financial affairs. Well, Oprah had OWN founded or started by Roger King, but she was left to run things herself. It didn't work out. So it went through 3 separate consortiums, and now the consortium that runs it. And if you walk into OWN's headquarters, you see one little boy dressed up like Michael Jackson prancing around, and another 2 young sisters with their head shaved wearing bib overalls and work boots. So she's got to dance that tune to them. And then you've got Tyler Perry. He does a lot of stuff, but they underpay him, but he's there, and he has spread a whole lot of poison in our community. And that has just ruined a lot of stuff for us. Michael Jackson got pushed for years by that industry because he was androgynous, and so you've got a whole lot of poisons in there that people don't realize. And I've always admired you for standing up for what's done, to be done. Isaiah Washington, who is another somebody that, you know, he does the thing that he's supposed to do. I talked face-to-face for the first time to a brother in D.C. He is Curtis Schoons. He's a hell of a brother. He's got a good idea. He's working it. He's trying to make a difference, and he's got street cred and all kinds of credibility going on, and he's done the right thing. There are brothers out there. But you see, this whole racket that we get so caught up in, even the performers, on the inside, it's a sick thing that's been for 50 years working on a specific agenda that we are not part of. And you have to understand that. I grew up in Los Angeles, born in Washington, D.C., been in Memphis, Tennessee for 46 years, and Hollywood is the most place I have ever worked for. See, it has cost, but hang in there, because sooner or later it comes about that only somebody with real credibility who has walked the walk, you know, talked the talk, done the deeds, can fill that position. It may be later, but you'll get there. Keep in there. I commend you.
I so appreciate that, Judge Joe Brown. And I think what happens oftentimes, and even with the situation with Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry, and like Sidney was saying, these are people that they on the top of the list for us as black people, knowing, though, that when you pull the curtain and you know who they are behind the curtain, when you play the character, but that's not the character that you are, that's not the character you possess when no one's watching, that's when it's a problem. I think because in our community we're faced with so much judgment. We're faced with, and I get it, baby, because you Uncle Joe. You Uncle Joe to us. We've watched you on TV for 15 years. So when Uncle Joe says boy, we know that's Uncle Joe. But it's coming from a different generation. But we know Uncle Joe's heart is good and he wants the best for his people. So when we can put all that together and not let people feel like when they walk away from us, I'm being judged, because I want to be free to be who I am. I don't want to offend anybody. However, it's hard for me to be free when I might be judged for my freedom. And it's hard for me to stand and fight for equality when I'm being judged for who I am. So we're being hit with so many swords at one time. It's hard for us sometimes to take a breath and say, how do we come together? Because boy may be the very boy that could do something and be that leader that you say the community needs, because what he may be doing is leading in love. So if we start with Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry, Judge Joe Brown, people think I'm mad with them. And no, we love them. And we're not calling them out. We're calling them up. And what we're saying to them is, listen, y'all, if y'all really let the community know who y'all are, because privately, both of y'all said, I ain't done nothing wrong. and y'all understood the position. But publicly, you said absolutely nothing. So what is that showing to our babies? So now we're fighting with that. We're fighting with the powerful will shut you down and just be silent. We're fighting with, oh, if you don't speak the right language, then you can't. We're fighting with so many things that it's hard for us to come to a balance, to say, okay, y'all, how do we make it better? How do we get to that place where we remove judgment and we start loving on each other? We might still disagree. I'm not saying we got to agree, but we love on each other, that even when we disagree and we walk away from each other, we don't walk away feeling like I'm not loved by you because you disagree with me.
And it's hard for us as a community to expect people to have an appreciation for us and not judge us because of our blackness. We got to learn to love people for who they are and how they are, because the real sign of manhood, in my humble opinion, is when you're strong enough, and womanhood is when you're strong enough to be who you are, not judge someone for how they are, because you don't want someone to tell you who you are intrinsically, just like it's really not our right to tell someone who they are intrinsically. There's an astrophysicist named Neil deGrasse Tyson who says we are made up of star stuff, which means we come from various places in this universe, and we know not what each one of our messages and our reasons for being here. As a heterosexual man, no one had to tell me about liking women. I just intrinsically did. So I assume when someone who likes someone of the same no one had to tell them it's intrinsic to them, in the same way that we as black people were not allowed to live our best life just because of the color of our skin. We understand completely where you're coming from, but we wouldn't be Mon'nique and Sidney and if we didn't speak to that, because we believe in the rights for all people, not just for our specific cause. When you have 4 to 6% people of color internally, when you have an individual that you refer to as a legend, but you want to pay her $500,000, but a white woman named Amy Schumer who said she couldn't get paid what Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock received because she was not a legend, there's a balance that is not there. So what you were saying, we completely agree with. We were actually addressing Judge Joe Brown when he was speaking specifically about the individuals as being boys and so forth. When he grew up, that was the term that they used. But being who we are in the times that we're in, you got to understand, there are individuals in my family that I look up to. Mon'nique will tell you about the club she grew up in, where it was the community who nurtured her, because as a big black woman who was ostracized for being a big black woman, that community loved her. So we would be remiss if we turned our back in the midst of someone saying something about it and didn't acknowledge that we have to be loving of all people. And even those individuals who are construed as our enemies, we don't look at them as our enemies, because we only have a finite amount of time here on this plane. And when we begin to transition on, you start to look at the level of relevance that they had on your life, and you will say to yourself, it ain't much. The relevance is how did you handle how those individuals dealt with you. So we've got to keep speaking up, again, that truth to power to those who are not doing the right thing, and for those individuals who are just doing and being themselves, we have to speak up for them too, because they don't deserve to be mistreated, looked at as less than, all because of their because we are strong enough as adults to love people for who they are, despite
Good for you for having that attitude, but that's not mine. And I'm not so turned on or
That's why
turned
you
off.
Uncle Joe, baby. That's why we love you like we love you when we come to the cookout. That's Uncle Joe. Give him 2 pieces of ice and that shot of that dog liquor. That's why we love you.
Well, hold on. See, you're missing a point here. It's not about somebody's First Amendment gives you a right to do whatever in the hell you want to do behind your closed doors, all right? What happens is when you start trying to barge into somebody else's living room, then what you do behind closed doors doesn't necessarily apply in their living room. The other thing is it's not about it's the lifestyle and the worldview. See, you've got super macho guys like Alexander the Great, Julius Caesar. That's not who I'm talking about. I'm talking about, in particular, this deal with stripping away the masculine component of the country. And when by that I mean certain, excuse me, I sneezed, certain behavior standards. Now, when we deal with getting it together, we have to look at what went on around and about the American Revolution. There were enemies made internally and externally. The French Revolution, the same thing. They had to go through their changes of sorting it out.
What we're saying is it's the equivalent of, I had the privilege of studying Gracie Jiu-Jitsu under the tutelage of Grandmaster Eddie Camden and another gentleman named Huron Gracie, who's the grandson of Gracie himself, of Helio Gracie. And what they would say is, just because someone else is having a bad day does not mean that you have to have a bad day. So that means that just because you have to someone out does not mean that you have to be angry while you're doing it.
Right, guys. So I've got more content. I'm going to put it on the other channel within 24 hours. YouTube has to approve the upload, etc., etc. So please sign up for the alerts. I think I got some Dr. Randy Short in there as well. So
that's what happens when you go up against the system. I don't feel anything for black folks who are against our survival. I'm sick of them.